Wednesday the 27th of July, and welcome to From the South. Venezuela's opposition supporters marched in the capital, Caracas, demanding that the country's National Electoral Council activate a recall referendum against President Nicolas Maduro. The National Electoral Council was supposed to fulfill a self-imposed deadline this past Tuesday, with the announcement regarding whether or not the opposition had enough signatures to go into the next phase of the process. Later in the evening, they posted a written statement stating that they would not make the announcement until August the 1st. Opposition leader Enrique Capriles has warned that if no response is given by that date, the ensuing consequences would be the fault of the government.
This is one of two opposition demonstrations here in Caracas today to demand faster progress towards a recall referendum against President Nicolas Maduro. They want to march to the centre of the city, to the National Electoral Council, but as you can see, they've only got a few hundred metres. That was entirely predictable because the mayor of the centre of Caracas has always said they're free to march here, but they wouldn't be allowed into the centre of the city. That's why their path has been blocked, because he says they usually take violence into the centre of the city when they go. The opposition are demanding a date be fixed for the next stage of a recall referendum, where they have to collect 20% of the signatures. The electoral authorities tell them to be patient. They're going through all the steps, step by step, and it will take time. On the other hand, the government party has accused them of what it calls gigantic fraud in the first phase. Ian Bruce, teleSur's, Caracas.
Meanwhile, Venezuela's government is looking to ban the opposition MUD coalition party. Officials are requesting that electoral authorities declare the opposition coalitions seeking to oust President Nicolas Maduro via a recall vote as illegal. The government is accusing them of committing massive electoral fraud. Dozens of students rallied outside the Legislative Assembly of Rio de Janeiro on Tuesday against state budget cuts for education. Months ago, students sat out some 70 schools in Brazil, protesting against school infrastructure and the quality of education. This comes along with nationwide calls against the prioritization of the Olympic Games over social services within the country itself. So far, 16 civilians are said to have been killed in rebel-held neighborhoods near Aleppo city in Syria. The latest incident of government airstrikes and artillery fire came after officials said they had surrounded the rebel-held east of the city. Earlier this week, the army claims it had sent text messages to fighters and residents requesting that weapons be laid down and offering safe passage out of the city for residents. And the fighting isn't limited to Aleppo city. teleSur's HAZEM ABDULLAH reports from Damascus.
The residents of Damascus and its suburbs have had a number of harsh days. Numerous mortar shells have been fired into the city by militants, falling on civilian neighborhoods and leaving about 9 persons dead and more than 20 wounded.
The message from every Syrian citizen, no matter what the terrorists try to bomb, is that they will not undermine our resolve. We are supporting our leader and our army, while the terrorists are showing their hatred by attacking civilians. This stems from their weakness and their inability to penetrate the army.
One of the shells hit a crowded restaurant in the old city, killing 9 civilians, including a child. The rest of missiles caused a great deal of physical damage and wounded many.
We try to live normally, but the terrorists and their terrible shells don't want us to. Is that our fault? We were just a group of girls in the restaurant, because we try to spend our time positively. But we woke up here.
In spite of the constant shelling, things have continued in Damascus. The streets and shops are active, in a clear message of the Syrians' will to live in the face of the darkness. HAZEM ABDULLAH, teleSur's, Syria.
Bangladeshi police say they have killed 9 people suspected of being members of a homegrown Islamist extremist group. Police stormed a hideout in the capital's Kalyanpur neighbourhood, where they said a new mass attack was being planned. It is believed that the killed suspects were responsible for an attack on a Dakar cafe earlier this month in which 20 hostages were killed. A 10th suspect was shot and taken into custody. In the Strait of Sicily, Coast Guard officials rescued some 472 refugees and migrants from a crammed wooden boat. The refugee crisis is still very much a concern for European Union members, with the possibility of Islamic State members slipping through the cracks and into EU countries. It is believed that this fear of terrorism could give breath to far-right politics. Maryland prosecutors announced on Wednesday that all charges had been dropped against officers in the death of Freddie Gray. His death last year in police custody set off massive protests around the city. The decision is expected to further fan outrage over the lack of accountability for police brutality. US President Barack Obama is expected to give a positive submission of presidential nominee Hillary Clinton at this evening's Democratic convention. It's being described as the most anticipated speech of the week-long event. As the popularity of Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump rises, President Obama recently stated that anything is possible this coming November. Meanwhile, outside the DNC, Black Lives Matter protesters hit the streets to denounce police brutality and Hillary Clinton's candidacy. Demonstrators say that they are unsatisfied with the lack of focus by the presidential nominees in highlighting the topic, as well as its impact on minorities. Many held up signs with names of the victims of police brutality. France's President François Hollande has vowed to wage war against the Islamic State group by every means within the law. This after two men linked to the jihadist group killed a priest in a French church in Normandy.
I have to be honest with you, this war will be a long one. What is targeted here is our democracy. That's their target, and it will be our shield. Our unity will be our strength. My fellow citizens, let's stand together. This is how we will win this war against hatred, against fanaticism, and I vow before you that we will win this war.
Israel has lifted a ban on the entry of cement imports into the Gaza Strip after more than a 3-month freeze. The ban has severely hurt the businesses of Palestinian businessmen, but has the lifting of the ban changed anything? teleSur's Noor Harazin has more.
Israeli authorities have again allowed cement supports to supply private brick factories in the Gaza Strip after freezing shipments for over 3 months. The chairman of the Palestinian Worker Union in Gaza, Ali Al-Hayek, said cement will continue to arrive on Wednesdays. He highlighted that the ban has prevented local providers from producing bricks for the last 3 months. Despite the decision, no cement arrived to Gaza today.
We haven't received any cement for the past 4 months. We are really suffering. It's hard to import cement and expensive. That's why bricks are costly for manufacturers and consumers. Our work has stopped due to the Israeli ban. We were informed 2 days ago that we can receive our shares, but everything was canceled all of a sudden and we don't know why.
Israel allowed the entry of some 80 cement truckloads daily into the blockaded strip since the UN reconstruction, or so-called SYRIA plan, was set up in 2014. The plan allows up to 120 cement truckloads to be transferred to Gaza every day, but private imports of cement into Gaza were suspended in April after Israel discovered an underground tunnel passing from the strip into Israel. Gaza residents depend on the entry of construction materials to repair and reconstruct their homes damaged in Israel's devastating war on the coastal enclave in the summer of 2014. According to the UN, 75,000 Palestinians remain homeless in the Gaza Strip 2 years after Israel's last devastating offensive. Noor Harazin, teleSur TV, Gaza.
As international athletes prepare for the start of the 2016 Olympic Games in Rio, differently abled communities are preparing as well. This video features blind children in Uganda as they compete at a cricket match for visually impaired youngsters in Kampala. It's part of an initiative to encourage more differently abled children to take part in sports. Uganda will send one athlete to the Paralympic Games to Rio in September. More on these and other stories on our website telesurtv.net/English.